I'm going to revert now to Pat Flanagan, who is our national PRO. And Pat has cut his teeth in this particular post for a number of years, and he has done very well. So we're very grateful to Pat. He has put together a presentation on probably what PROs need to be doing. So Pat, over to you.
And Céad Míle Fáilte, Riamh Gach Éine and Seonocht. So I will take you through PR, public relations, and I suppose a little bit different to the presentation that we've had now on child protection and the one on data protection that we had last week. This is one where we're not really bound by, let's say, rules and regulations as such at all, but whatever we do, in other words, we try to maximize the benefit for our organization as such. And you will see here on the opening slide that we're doing it under Cothromaíocht because, in other words, this series of presentations that we're doing is under the Cothromaíocht document because funding was received from the department in relation to that. And when you're talking about PR, you can also use PR as a way of getting the message out as to how we treat people and treat one another and so on. So the first thing then is, what are we talking about when we talk about public relations? So it's the process of influencing the attitudes and opinions of a group of persons in the interest of promoting a person, a product, an idea, or an institution. So it's that process. A planned and sustained effort to establish and maintain goodwill and mutual understanding between an organization and its public. In other words, what do we want the public out there, maybe our members or whatever, what do we want them to know? What do we want them to think of us? And so on. Now, the first thing is the objectives of Comhaltas. And so, again, when you're talking about PR, this is the message that we need to get out: to promote traditional Irish music and with special emphasis on the harp and on the uilleann pipes, to promote traditional singing, to promote traditional dancing, and Tachaíocht de Thuairt na Úsáid, Labhairt agus Forbairt na Gaeilge. What kind of an image do we want to promote? So the first thing is Comhaltas. It's a group of like-minded people. And it might be no harm to mention here that, in other words, the word is pronounced Comhaltas and not Ceoltóirí, as is often the case. And if, for instance, you ever had a member of your branch who was likely to be in a position of speaking publicly at a fairly important forum, it would be nice to just ensure that they have the pronunciation correct. And so also we want to promote an image of happy, generous, reliable, supportive, all of those kind of good things where people would want to be in our organization. It's a voluntary organization. We want to enrich community life, Cothromaíocht, and the qualities of equality, respect, and opportunity. So Tomas has mentioned that already now, and we mentioned it at previous training sessions. The branch structure, that it's accessible to all, and you know the slogan, at a branch near you, that in other words, everybody has access to it. And then at the bottom there, the Gaeilge agus Fáilte. And strictly speaking, the Comhaltas activities, they present a natural forum at which Gaeilge can be used informally. So if you look at the picture here, and this is the one that I credit Martin Gaffney with this picture. Some of you might remember it, that background from the Cavan Flaes. And so, you know, it's a happy picture. It's difficult to find fault with it. They're playing music, it's informal, they're enjoying it, it's carefree. The blue background at the back is kind of pleasing. There's a contrast of instruments and a contrast of artists. And you know, a picture can tell 1,000 words, so that, you know, if you could write a story on that, and I think the message would be that this is a fun place to be and something that you might like to share. So then if you take kind of slogans that we're familiar with, you know, when you see ads for Toyota cars, they tell you that they're the best built cars in the world. I'm not promoting Toyota now. Kia cars, the car with the 7-year warranty. Brennan's bread, that's today's bread today. Domestos, it kills 99% of all known germs dead. And so, in other words, those are just one-liners that those businesses use to promote what they do. And then, so therefore, we need to get a message for what we do. But what we do is so diverse, of course, that there isn't just one line to tell it all. So then, when we come to the PRO, there are lots of demands on the PRO. So the first thing is to understand the objectives of the organization, Comhaltas, to understand the image that the organization wishes to convey to the public. That's some of the things I've mentioned already. Now I'm going to introduce a new item now to have a clear understanding of the concept of brand and to understand the different methods of communication and how to derive benefits from them all. So we'll deal with those over the next couple of slides. The objectives, first of all, so are to promote the activities of the branch, to promote participation within the branch, to enroll young members and new members, to promote links with other organizations. You know, for instance, maybe at St. Patrick's Day time or other festival time, we could link up with Conran and Gaeilge, with the GAA, with organizations that are like-minded, promote public awareness of Comhaltas and to improve media relations. So the first thing then for a PRO, once they know what the job spec is they need a PR plan. And so the first step in that is to review the present situation, determine what the objectives are, who is the audience, who are the people that we need to get the message out to, selection of the media and techniques, how are we going to get that message out, have we got a budget and do we need a budget, assessment and review of results. So this is often now, you know, businesses actually use this kind of a discipline as well, where they plan something, they do it, they check the outcome at the end of it, and then if there's some kind of modification required, again, going forward, they act on that. So the plan, do, check, act, referred sometimes as the PDCA cycle, and there are other terms used for it as well. Different businesses use different terminology, but it's the same thing. And so what it means is you're all the time looking at the effect of what you're doing and determining, can it be improved further? So here is just a typical kind of a page that a PRO might have in relation to an event. And I've just, for simplicity now, I've just picked the few headings that would be useful. And I just took an example of FLA 2022. And let's say that you're going to run a Gaeilge. And then what are the dates that are important? So you plan this early on in the time. Your plan is drawn up. You're going to determine who you're going to actually contact and when. And the key thing here is that you're going to get the message out in time to the different publics that we have here. So the Set Dancing News, Midlands 103, the print media, social media, Gaeilge House on RT, excuse me, on RTE and so on. And when you come to something like the Set Dancing News, it's only published every so often. I think it used to be every 2 months. So you need to make sure that you're going to get the word in on time so that it's, let's say, it appears at least in the issue before your event, maybe 2 issues before that and so on. So you take those kinds of things into account, and that's where the planning comes in. You don't want to arrive at, well, if we just take the Set Dancing News, you don't want to kind of just start thinking about it and then find that, well, the last issue was published last week and the next one won't be out until after our FLA. You don't want to arrive at that position. And the same thing down then says social media, Ceilidh House. And obviously, the more you put it out there for people to hear it, the more that it will just kind of sink into their brains that this thing is on. Publicity planning. So you have two types, basically. You have pre-event publicity and post-event publicity. So the kind of pre-event publicity you might do at the announcement of the event. So for instance, as soon as Fleadh Cheoilna Éireann for Mullingar was announced, you might take that opportunity to do a bit of pre-event publicity at the advertising of specific events for it. Occasionally in the intervening period, you might give an update of what's coming to town during the Fleadh, at the press launch leading up to it, and then at the official opening if it's an extended event. And then the post-event publicity is you give a comprehensive report afterwards in relation to how things went, and you would have good quality images to go with it. Now, when we talk about the brand, up on our website, you have the little E or C shape. There was often a little bit of debate about that. Some people see that it can be seen as a C and it can be seen as an E, and therefore that it was suitable for CCE, for Comhaltas Ceoltóirí Éireann. But in any event, regardless of whether that perception is correct or not, this is the brand and the logo. And in other words, you would note the type of font, so it's capital letters, and we should use it on all publications, venue signs, direction signs, etc. Ensure that it's seen at photo opportunities, and the thing really is to think of the harp image and Guinness, so that if you use the same logo as part of your brand consistently, as soon as people see it, they immediately think Comhaltas and what we do. Now, so the awareness of media pressure and don't be naive. So if you're talking about, let's say, your local papers or whatever, the first thing is deadlines. So if the local paper if they need the stuff in by midday on Monday or midday on Tuesday or whatever, you need to have a system where you're going to click the button on the Sunday night, for instance, if it's to be in for the Monday. And I remember on one occasion, a PRO for one of the Fleadh Cheoilna Éireanns told me that they would usually have their material ready to just go last thing on the Sunday night, so that when the researcher at the paper came in on Monday morning, it was top of their list. The cost. So what's in it for me? The paper must survive commercially, so that in some cases, leading up to big events, sometimes there's an extra insert done for the paper where they take ads from businesses, and then the paper actually make a few bob from that. And any space that you get is at the editor's discretion. So I suppose the key thing in that there in relation to the cost is, if you keep coming with the begging bowl all the time looking for a space and your stuff to be printed, and if there's nothing coming back to the paper, you mightn't be just welcome. So it's important to think of it from their point of view. Now, the methods of communication. So we all know at this stage that electronic submission is by email, hard copy submission is by letter or by a printed document, and we'll deal with the pros and cons in a minute, but clearly the email submission is better. Then you have oral, where you have direct audience, maybe on a show or at a presentation or whatever. You might have an indirect verbal communication, either over the phone or on a radio program. You have your social media, Facebook, Twitter, etc., etc., and there are lots more of them. I'll mention others later on. You have your website, you have posters and signs and leaflets. And in other words, so you have a diverse array of different media that you can use to get your message out and just keep it in the eye of the public at all stages. Types of publicity. So the first thing is you can have paid publicity. So paid publicity, best example, I suppose, if you look at a Sunday paper and you'll see where the Super Value and the Tesco and the Dunn's ads, and they're all paid. So they actually they even pick the page number in the paper where they want it. Some people are very specific in relation to whether it's left or right as you open the pages. Some of these are full page, and obviously there's a cost going with them and so on. So paid by size and duration. Specific location in the paper, or a time slot on a radio or TV. So for instance, sometimes in relation to farming stuff, it might be on either early in the morning or after 6 o'clock in the evening, when they know that this is where we'll catch the people that we want to get the message. The text is predetermined. In other words, the purchaser of the publicity determines that. The cost is determined by the location of the ad in the paper, or the time of the broadcast on TV or radio, and the size or volume of the ad. So free publicity, then there are no fixed rules. It depends on the editor or the producer. The volume of the content is not predetermined. The exact location in the paper is not predetermined, and the editor may reduce the printed content depending obviously on the priority of the day. So you may not get what you wanted, but appreciate what you get. So in other words, if when you're talking about free publicity, you're at the editor's discretion. So now, in relation to a press release, then there are essential components, and usually it's the who, what, why, where, and when. So if you deal with those 5 items, that should tell the public everything they need to know. So the news must be current. It's useful if the caption is catchy and the content is interesting. It needs to be well written with correct spelling, and include direct quotes where appropriate. For instance, if you had somebody like Michael D. Higgins at the Cultural, then it would be very useful to say, well, what did Michael D. Higgins say about Comhaltas and the value of Comhaltas and the contribution that Comhaltas makes to society and so on. And with all of these things, good quality pictures helps the article. So this is just developing the press release further. So the who, what, where, when, and why. So if we're talking about the who or the FLA FEC, they're having a concert. It's in the Mullingar Park. It's on Sunday, the 1st of May, 2022. The why is to raise funds for FLA Ceoltóirí Éireann and the individual at Pádraig O'Flanagan. And then the little bit of material down at the end, the admission is €10. The proceeds are going towards the FLA. And if you have any further information, you can contact them at such and such a phone number or at an address, email address. So that's the key components of a press release. Now, why electronic communication is more effective? So it's more likely to be acceptable to print media because the work is done. You can send it to multiple recipients at once. The PRO controls the emphasis of the text. Relevant photos can be included with accurate descriptions. The logo can be provided as part of the document. It's useful as background information to broadcast media, even if it is to be followed by interview, etc. So in other words, if you're doing a radio interview, it's useful to send in the printed document, and that will guide the interview. And it kind of is something that gives you a bit of support, that you know what's likely to be asked of you. So it lends itself to keeping an accurate record of material submitted and the creation of local archive. Now, liaison with the media. This is a fairly important item, because if you have, let's say, you know the person in your local paper or your local radio, you have their phone number, you can ring them up, they know who you are, and so you have built up a relationship with them, then you're much more likely to get a favorable hearing from them than if you ring up cold out of the blue. They have no idea who you are, and so on like that. So to build relationships with them. Recommended to establish contact with the relevant people in the different media outlets, and your local papers, local radio, national papers. Generally, national papers are other than maybe the Flacheol Éireann, they're not hugely interested in say, the more local issues like County Flan or whatever. But at the same time, you know, everybody should be included on the list, and then you'll see how you go, whether there's interest or not. So I've also given the website there. If you're using photos, they'd want to be high quality, professional or professional standard, good clear pictures, and use a clear heading, like for instance, Comhaltas concert or whatever. High quality pictures. So set your camera to high resolution. It might mean that it's you know, taking up more energy and more space, but you get a better quality picture from it, say pixel wise. Some older phones are really not adequate when you're sending photographs on like that. If you're using a flash, do not place the subjects in front of a wall. This is probably one of the most common mistakes, really, in that you're getting shadows all over the place, and you can't really see where a person's head ends and the shadow blends into it by the side of it or whatever. Do not place subjects in the middle of clutter, like a library. If the surrounding light is dim, use your red eye reduction setting of the flash mode. This is where the camera gives a kind of 2 flashes to constrict the pupils of the eye with the first one, and then you don't get the red eye then. Set up the shot to ensure that the screen is filled with the subjects facing towards the camera. You can do it informal if you like. Balance the subjects for height, concentrate on the upper bodies, follow the focus instructions, and avoid camera shake. So that's just a photograph that was taken down at a training in Brew a couple of years ago. And you can see the picture is filled and reasonably in focus, no shadows, and that kind of stuff. Now, preparation for local radio. So the thing is to be prepared, make contact with the presenter or production team beforehand, have full knowledge of all the relevant activities that are to happen. Details of further information like websites, flyers, etc. Bring an aid memoir card with you, but avoid rummaging through lots of paper in the studio and turn off your phone. So in other words, you need to be well briefed in relation to what you're going to discuss, and that you have whatever prompts you need with you. Now, in relation to our group tonight, we probably have county board PROs, we might have branch PROs, we might have provincial PROs. And so there's a relationship between all of those, because we want to keep one another informed of what's going on. And for instance, if the county board was running some event, it's useful, for instance, to be able to keep the branch PROs informed, keep the provincial PROs informed, and we can get a bit of support coming in through that route as well. Communication with the branch PROs, number 1 is to inform, number 2 is to educate, and number 3 is to assist. So you can see how it kind of just helps the system. Now, on our Comhaltas website, and I can just tell the meeting here tonight that a lot of work is going into the Comhaltas website at the minute. Everybody knows that it needs to be updated and enhanced, and that process has actually commenced. It is done as part of the government funding that was got in relation to the Cothromaíocht document. So both website and social media are being enhanced at this particular time. But if you go into the comhaltas.ie website and you go to the press room, that will bring you to a downloads option, and you can get the logo there and other Comhaltas images as well. So there's the page, and you can see we're in the press room, and over on the right hand side you can see that we have the little, inside the red box we have the downloads option, and once you open that it brings you into all of the things that you can get, say signs for direction signs and all that as well, including the logo, and there are a couple of different versions, excuse me, a couple of different versions of the logo, but you get them all there. And then when you go into it, So there's on top there is your Comhaltas logo. You can save it as a picture or you can copy it. So it gives you the option. Gaeilge, another logo, that's also available at the downloads. Now, in relation to the use of Gaeilge, there's a very useful website called focal.ie. And if you type in something, like we would say in the top red box there, you'll see where Public Relations Officer is written in. And down at the bottom, you can see that it gives you Ifiga Codriv Fubli as the translation of it. So if you're looking for the translation of anything in particular, that's useful. Now on Gaeilge, so on Gaeilge, it's the cornerstone of the Comhaltas image. And we always avail of an opportunity to use some Gaeilge. For instance, we put Seanóchil in the flat or, and if you want Seanóchils, you can get them. There are numerous websites available that will give you Seanóchil. You'll get loads of them and you'll get the meaning of them. And it's just a useful way of showing, let's say, our interest in promoting the Gaeilge. And sometimes if you're printing up a flat or whatever, you might have a bit of spare space where you can put in a couple of Seanóchils like that. So, and a significant amount of Comhaltas funding is based on Gaeilge. So we shouldn't forget that. In other words, at least we're giving something back in return. Now, for archival records, then, we have vast quantities of written and photographic records created. How is this retained? Scrapbooks or hard copy files or minute books or whatever. We can have electronic storage, like an external hard drive or a memory stick. We have branch website. We have cloud storage, such as Dropbox or Google Docs or Wikispaces. We must observe data protection requirements, though. And if we have data, for instance, in relation to people, and supposing, for instance, we have medical records in relation to students that we had in class, or if we had dates of birth in relation to children in competition, once we have finished with the use of that material, we should actually destroy that material. It's all right to keep lists of people who were there for archival purposes. So it's a question of just you know, it's a question of just deciding, is it material that we can do without, that we're finished using, and if so, we should discard it safely, of course. Now, the final task then, activity is the lifeblood of Comhaltas, and classes, festivals, education, publications, archive, bilingualism, volunteerism. PR is the oxygen carried by the blood. And the success of the event will greatly depend on the effectiveness of the PRO. Now, a bit about social media. Social media is vast. Like we could have a night on its own on social media, but it has huge benefits and it's very popular. So the benefits are that the message is instantly received. It brings up to the minute news. It reaches a huge audience. The PRO needs to be aware of the platforms like Facebook and Messenger of Facebook in particular, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp. We also have a Comhaltas YouTube channel, and we have so social media is used, as it were, on the move. People are usually using social media on their phones, and they just want up to the minute news in relation to stuff. So if you were at, let's say, for instance, at a FLA, and if a decision had to be taken to, let's say, to cancel an event or to move an event to another venue, this is a great way of getting the message out immediately to people, that you don't have them then traveling and arriving at the venue where the thing is not happening. A couple of different websites. Comhaltas.ie is the one we refer to, flaceol.ie, comhaltaslive.ie. People will be aware of Comhaltas Live. These are recordings done by Willie Fogarty, and they're placed up on the Comhaltas Live website, and they're there every week. There's fantastic stuff. Sometimes competitions from FLAN are recorded there and so on. There's also a website called archive.comhaltas.ie, and you'll get just little brief shots of old archive material. And then down at the bottom is admin@comhaltas.ie. This is the website used for the electronic membership. And the bits in highlighted in yellow, if you type in that amount without the HTTPS bit, it usually comes up on your browser. Focal square machine, so shine agus gur míle maithagh as éisteacht.